Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy C-I-Z-Z-Y, you dig, live action, Kansas City, Missouri. You already know the vibes. Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Collis Show, formerly known as the Culture Talks podcast. So today, for all the people watching this right now, we will be talking about the sex toy industry. We'll be talking about their annual growth rate. We'll be talking about their global revenue. We'll be talking about some of the growing areas within the sexual wellness industry. We'll be talking about some of the top companies that have been producing for the sex toy industry for the past 20 years. We'll be talking about business, numbers, and just about sexual wellness and toys overall. So thank you for tuning in. Please continue to stand by as I go through this intro. So just a few updates. This episode will only be live on my Patreon account and only be available to those who are part of one of the three membership tiers. If you are a part of any of these three membership tiers, the $5 tier, the $10 tier, the $20 tier, you will have access to all bonus episodes, which will specifically, most likely, haven't made a full decision, be solo episodes of me covering specific industries, businesses, just interesting topics that I find fun, that I think might be interesting to a niche audience within my already niche audience, right? So if you need to share the Patreon link or this video with any of your friends that you think will find it interesting, they will need to have access to the membership account, so they will need to purchase a membership tier. Also, you will have access to early viewing of podcast videos and audio from my interviews that I typically do publicly. You'll get early access to those. You'll also get, as you move up in the membership tiers, different discounts on our merch website, VOV Apparel. So join the community, tap in, let's make it happen. So let's jump into it. Sex toys. You might have sex toys yourself. Your girlfriend might have sex toys. Maybe your man has sex toys. As the toy industry and the products in the sex toy industry are starting to open up and really, be available to the male community as well. Sorry about that. Available to the male community as well. We have, what is it? Penile rings. I don't know what they call them, but we have rings that vibrate. We have, products that they make, a lot of people make fun of, such as pussy pockets, I think is what it's called. And there's a whole lot of other, sex toy options that, are more for the male community, and that industry, that part of it, is starting to grow a lot. So whether you're a male or a woman, you might have sex toys on your own, or maybe it's a topic you've never discussed before and you've been scared to talk about, or you've been nervous to investigate. And I encourage you to listen to this podcast, and then after this, start to build a little bit of confidence around having this conversation with your partner, maybe having this conversation with your internal self, with some internal dialogue, and ask yourself questions about why you're feeling insecure or uncomfortable around this conversation. Because at the end of the day, sex toys is just sexual wellness. Sexual wellness is simply just wellness, and wellness is simply just taking care of self. So with that being said, let's jump into it. In 2020, the sex toy industry was estimated to be at $33.64 billion in annual revenue. So take that back, $33.64 billion globally, if I said USA. And they're looking at the next 5 to 6 years, the compounding annual growth rate being at 8%. And just so you get an idea of how good that is, the average, let's say average or good annual growth rate for any large cap company or any large industry is around 5 to 10%. So being at 8% is a pretty solid annual growth rate, and is promising for the sex toy industry. And as you can assume, during the pandemic, during 2019, 2020, during the highs of the pandemic is still here, but during the highs of the pandemic, we have a lot of people staying at home, a lot of people trying to find different avenues to release stress, or different avenues to explore for their own personal wellness, to take care of their mind and body while they're locked in home and not having access to their community or social life, and really just trying to find different ways to, whatever it might be, access and improve wellness. Maybe it's just distraction from the outside world. Maybe it's simply just pleasure. And it's something that's just popping in general. But what we've seen over the past 5 to 10 years is that the society be a little bit more open-minded. The people who are growing up right now are becoming a little bit more open-minded around topics that used to be, tisk tisk in the 70s, 80s, 90s, are starting to be conversations that are, you know, had more, are discussed more publicly. And one of those conversations, one of those topics, one of those industries is sex toys. And so during the pandemic, we saw a 26% growth rate during the pandemic between 2019 and 2020. So that is a lot. So we saw the industry grow by a lot during the pandemic. And as you can expect, we saw a few industries drop a lot. We saw a few industries grow a lot during the pandemic, and things will come back and adjust during the next year or two. But we're still, looking at a solid growth rate in the sex toy industry moving forward. I wanted to discuss distribution of sex toys. So, a lot of us are like, where do we get sex toys from? We don't have a lot of specialty stores. A lot of people know about Cirillas here in the Kansas City area. That's a specialty store. There's a few other specialty stores, but we don't really see many adult stores when we drive around the city, right? Again, because in the past it was seen as tisk tisk, wasn't a popular business to get into or to talk about being in, and wasn't something people were looking to give a lease out to. Oh, we're going to lease our building to this person that sells sex toys, versus we're going to give our building a lease to somebody who sells something else. They're most likely to get the deal. So there's not so many brick and mortar buildings or locations where you can find sex toys at. So two you guys might know of are Cirillas and Zoomies, but it's not popular for there to be brick and mortar stores selling, or specialty stores selling sex toys or products within the sexual wellness, industry. So 60% of all purchases or of all revenue in the global industry of sex toys comes from e-commerce. So we're talking websites, we're talking direct to consumer, we're talking Amazon, we're talking Shopify stores created by up and coming entrepreneurs. We're talking a lot of D2C companies who are simply creating these products, putting them up on their website, explaining them on the website, and consumers are going there, purchasing them, and having them sent directly to their home. That's about 60% of distribution is through e-commerce and online purchases. Around 30 to 35% is due to specialty stores such as Cirillas, or I wouldn't really call Zoomies a specialty store, but other specialty adult sex stores, about 30 to 35%. And about 5% is from mass merchandisers such as, Walmart or other mass merchandisers, right? So when we think about starting a business in the sex toy industry, when we think about purchasing sex toys, most likely where most people are going to be leaning towards is e-commerce, direct to consumer products, such as, let's see, there's a company called Laura DiCarlo who's growing extremely quick, and they've grown massively over the past 2 years, and they're a direct to consumer account. You can go to their website right now, just type in Laura DiCarlo on your browser and you can pull them up. So in 1 year, I believe it was 2019, they went from $0 in revenue to $7.5 million in revenue as a direct to consumer company, selling primarily through e-commerce. Now they have partnerships with other stores such as Target or I don't know if it was Target, but they have partnerships with other companies where you can purchase their products within brick and mortar stores, but 70 to 80 to 90% of their sales channel is through e-commerce. So revenue share, let's talk about the revenue share. So who is mostly purchasing sex toys? People who are mostly purchasing sex toys are women. So the industry is dominated by the female sector. Around 60% of purchases of sex toys are by women. And we're starting to see the male industry, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, grow little by little. So maybe over the next 10 to 15 years, we can see that start to come to a 50-50 or maybe even to a 60-40, depending on the quality of products that come out and the marketing done to the male population. Profit margins. So if you Google profit margins, or if you look into the businesses of some of the top companies in the sex toy industry, their profit margins are pretty good. The number that I found a lot was averaging out around 25%, and that's a pretty solid profit margin, better than 1% like the gas industry. So if you guys follow The Hustle, or are subscribed to their newsletter, you may know that the gas industry, gas stations only make around 1% or $1 or 1 cent or something like that, something super minimal. Their profit margin is super low from gas. And there's a lot of industries like that where, in manufacturing or warehouse, where like the profit margins are super low. So 25%, it's a pretty solid profit margin for this industry. And the majority of their growth channels, for most direct to consumer or specialty stores, is through SEO. So what's happening there? SEO is simply search engine optimization. So essentially optimizing, your company to be easily searchable. When people type in sex toys online, your company is the first company to come up. So a lot of companies, being that 60% of distribution of sex toys is coming through e-commerce, are really utilizing SEO as a growth channel and optimizing their words and their copywriting, so that when people look up sex toys online, they're finding their company first. And that's where most companies are growing in. So you might be wondering, okay, why is the sex toy industry so popular aside from just sexual pleasure, right? Well, wellness sells, and how a lot of companies in the sex toy industry have been positioning themselves as wellness companies, and not, these not positioning themselves as risque or this tisk or this, hiding something that you need to hide, but instead they're positioning themselves as wellness companies. And their marketing is around how this can help improve your mental health, or improve your sex life, or improve your sexual health, which obviously has benefits mentally, physically. And so they're positioning themselves as wellness companies, and wellness will always sell. People always want to be healthier. People always want to, especially right now, over the past 10 years, the wellness sector across food, across, certain types of gyms or workout programs like Peloton, wellness is becoming a more popular topic for people to discuss and to actually care about versus 20, 30 years ago. So wellness sells, and these sex toy companies are positioning themselves as wellness companies, especially a lot of these direct to consumer companies that are launching their e-commerce stores and are trying to get into the sexual wellness industry. Also, technology and pleasure mix very well. Technology and pleasure mix very well. So we see the tech industry booming the past 10 to 15 years. So if you go look at the stock market right now, some of the most successful companies in the world right now that are making the most money, that are being the most consistent with growth, that are really changing and advancing society in cool ways, are tech companies. Everything that we're doing right now is through technology. How you're watching this right now is through technology. How you communicate through technology. How you entertain yourself through technology. So when we mix and match pleasure with technology, you're pretty damn close to a guaranteed win, just as long as your product is quality, it is, eco-friendly, and it's providing a quality service. Of course, you don't want any technology that's trash or dies or breaks down within 1 week. But if the technology is on point, technology and pleasure mix very well. Another reason why this industry is growing is something we discussed earlier in this podcast, and is due to an open-minded audience. Like I said, over the past 5, 10, 15 years, the feelings and thoughts around, sex toys, around the sex industry has changed and developed and advanced in a positive direction. And so when the audience becomes more open-minded about topics that used to be tisk tisk. I know I keep saying that, but around audiences, around topics that used to be tisk tisk, then obviously the industry grows as well. So open-minded audience, wellness being a great, way to sell, and technology and the power of technology, mixing that with pleasure. These are all three big reasons why the sex toy industry is continuing to grow at a pretty quick rate. You also can't put a price on satisfaction. So the reason why these profit margins are pretty good is because the price tag on a lot of these sexual products, these sex toy products, are pretty high. And you can't put a price on satisfaction. If something's going to satisfy somebody, and if people are talking about how much it satisfies them, one great example is there has been TikTok videos going around about these vibrating underwear, right? That your partner or yourself, or typically your partner, can control. So essentially, you download this app. Again, technology mixed with pleasure. You download this app. Your lady friend puts on this, not lady friend, your partner or your lady friend put on this vibrating underwear, and you can control it, the type of vibration, the intensity, and it's like this cute little thing you can do in public, or just to fire some things up a little bit, right? So when we think about putting a price on satisfaction, and you see these videos that are just casually marketing the product itself, and people being satisfied, you can't put a price on that. People will pay $200, $300 when they see some girl on TikTok, freaking, just go watch these TikTok videos. You understand what I'm saying? And you be like, damn, yeah, I spent $300 on that for my lady, or damn, I'm gonna get $300 on, I'm gonna buy that for $300. I would love for my man to have, do this. I think it would be fun. So you can't put a price on satisfaction. And last but not least, going back to wellness, it's a wellness solution. So there's a lot of problems around, people. There's so many topics we can discuss around issues people run into in their sex lives, or making things exciting, or maybe they're just struggling to, be pleasured or satisfied within, their sex life. At the end of the day, this is not only just a satisfaction solution, but this is also a wellness solution, as they're continuing to position themselves as sex toy companies as wellness companies. And so wellness sells, technology times pleasure equals awesome. Open-minded audiences contribute to growth in the industry and can't put a price on satisfaction. And it's a wellness solution. And these are all great reasons to believe that this sex toy industry is going to continue growing. So I did want to talk about a few companies that are well known in the sex toy industry. Love Honey is a popular company. It's UK's largest sex toy manufacturer. So Love Honey, Doc Johnson is the largest producer in the adult novelty market and has been for the past 20 years. That company is actually pretty funny because I was reading a story about, their how they started, and basically a dad, started the company, and his kids growing up always never knew what their dad did for business. And eventually when they started getting to middle school, people started to find out what they did, and they used to get, jokes made fun of them and jokes on the kids. And they used to be annoying, but by the time they hit high school and college, they become the most popular kids around, because, what better story to tell than, yeah, my dad, has a huge sex toy company. Like, you automatically, especially in college, you guys know how it is. Or your high school teen years, you automatically become the cool family, you automatically become the cool guy. So eventually the kid grew up to love the dad's company, and now the kid is the chief operations officer, the dad is the chief executive officer. Still a family business. A lot of family and friends still work for the business, but are a pretty large organization as well, about 500 plus employees. From the last time I checked, that might have changed during the pandemic due to employment shortages, but huge company, largest producer in the adult novelty market, American company as well. WeVibe is one of Canada's largest producers of sex toys. So we have Love Honey being UK's largest sex toy provider, Doc Johnson being the largest producer in general, but out of the US. We have WeVibe being one of Canada's largest producers of sex toys. And then I wanted to add in, and we've talked about it already, one of the rising direct-to-consumer companies that has been killing it, and that's called Laura DiCarlo. went from 0 to 7.5 million in 1 year in 2019 during the pandemic. That company is also the first women-led company that raised like the most amount of money or something. So they fundraised like $1 million through, I believe, Republic.co. And I think it's like the first female founder or something on that platform, to something along those lines. But either way, they raised a lot of money, and it's a women-ran company, also positioned themselves as a wellness company, direct to consumer, and they're killing it. They are killing it. So with all that being said, I wanted to finalize this podcast with sharing a few fun facts. One fun fact is Australia is one of the biggest per capita countries to sell sex toys. And Australia wasn't so fond of, being public about that in the past, but like we discussed multiple times throughout this episode, audience is becoming more open, and conversations around sex, sexual wellness, sex technology, sex toys has become more public, and people are becoming more open-minded. So now, Australia has been, but it's starting to be recognized as one of the biggest per capita countries to sell sex toys, which is funny because I don't even know if Australia is that huge, but either way, their neighboring country at one point, New Zealand, had the highest percentage of ownership of sex toys in the world. So New Zealand, a small little country, the Kiwis, right? Had the highest percentage of sex toy ownership in the world at one point. So I don't know what it is with that part of the world, Australia and New Zealand, but apparently sex toys, popping. So definitely, if you're listening to this episode and you're thinking about starting a sex toy company, that should definitely be a market you look at marketing to and selling to, because apparently it's popping out there. And there's a difference between sex toys is within the sexual wellness industry, but the topic today was mainly about sex toys. But the sexual wellness industry overall, which encompasses sex toys, sex technology, sex dating apps, all types of things in the sexual wellness world, is actually a $3.7 trillion industry in revenue. I think it was last year. They did about $3.7 trillion in revenue. That's a lot of money. So if you didn't know, now you know. Sex toys are popular. Maybe you should get into starting a sex toy company. If you're looking at this, if you listen to my podcast for business thoughts, ideas, maybe you should look into the sex toy industry, and leverage the fact that direct to consumer companies are blowing up right now. Go study their business plans, go study their what their growth channels are, what their unit economics are. Go study what distribution channels people are using. Go study the potential growth of the industry and start a company of your own. So shout out to Shopify. Go create a Shopify account and go ham. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first bonus episode I ever put out there. So obviously we'll continue to get better and better. If there's any topics that you're interested in hearing more about, or you want me to dive deep on, or if there's any questions you have about the sex toy industry that you want me to look into and drop another bonus episode on it, please let me know. Thank you for being a part of my membership tier blueprint, the part 2, the part 3, all that. Thank you for joining. And I look forward to putting out more episodes for you guys in the future. Again, join our Discord community, tell a friend about our Patreon community. And if you're not trying to do either of those and you just want to provide free, dope interviews, conversations to share with your friends or to listen to yourself, look up the Collis Show on any podcast listening platform, and you can hear our episodes live and for free. With that being said, thanks for tuning in. This is your boy, CIZZY, signing out.